golfj.com.
And good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Golf J podcast on golfj.com. I'm Jim Sinicropi alongside Rhett, Ticconi, and Doug Brown inside the Finger Lakes 1.TV studios in Seneca Falls, New York. Monday, April 11th, 2016, and tonight we'll be talking about a startling back nine at Augusta on Sunday as Jordan Spieth implodes on the 12th, opening the way for Danny Willett to win his first major championship and the first Masters for a European since 1999, which it's hard to believe. Also, we'll grade CBS's coverage, talk about Jordan Spieth's excruciatingly slow play. We'll have a chance for you to win a Golf J hat if you can answer this week's trivia question, and we'll give you our fantasy golf picks for the Heritage this weekend. And I'll tell you who I think is the most overrated player on the PGA Tour, and we'll see who agrees with me. So, good evening, guys. How you doing tonight?
Hey, Jim. How you doing, bud?
How are you?
So, Doug, what do you think about this year's Masters? We sat here a week ago, and we're so excited about all the possibilities. But could we ever have imagined?
I didn't see that ending coming, but more times than not, that Masters produces a fantastic finish.
Yeah.
Either a great rally or there's been some other crumbles over the years as well.
Number 12.
That's right.
Number 12 gets you.
I didn't see that implosion coming, but the Masters doesn't disappoint.
Not at all. Not at all. That hole's gotten them twice now.
Yeah.
And you got a full dose of
Oh, yeah.
Masters this week, right?
Absolutely. 4 days worth. I think I don't want to admit it too loud. I hope none of my bosses are watching this. But yeah, I had like 4 screens going on Friday, I think, with, Masters.com. They do a great job with that app. So I had one iPad had the Amen Corner. One computer had 15 or 13 through 15.
Yeah.
My desktop had the featured group, and then on my TV I had the CBS coverage, or the ESPN coverage. So my eyes were going all different directions.
Well, we got a lot to talk about tonight, so I just want to get right off the bat with this question here, and that's: did Danny Willett win the major championship, or did Spieth hand it over to him? Because there's a difference there.
Absolutely.
So I don't know.
So, my opinion, Danny Willett wins the Masters. He had the best 72-hole score.
Yep.
Okay, so everybody's got to play 72 holes. You add them up when they're all done. Danny Willett had the low score.
Yeah, and I don't think I don't think Spieth gave it to him per se because granted that hole definitely was a big turnaround, but Willett goes to 4 under right before he tees off on 12,
right.
And after at that point, Spieth was already at 5 under because he had just bogeyed the last 2 holes. So now Willett clears 14 at 4 under, and Spieth's going to 12, a little nervous about 5 under, after giving up a couple, after had birdied 4 holes in a row, and he just didn't hit the shot he wanted to hit,
right.
And that happens. So he can't, he didn't do what he wanted to do, but I wouldn't say he gave it to him because Willett was coming up the leaderboard, and he had ultimately got to the number he needed to get to.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I kind of feel like he did. I mean, Spieth led 7 straight rounds at the Masters. He had a 5-shot lead, and the only person that could have beat him at that point was Jordan Spieth.
Yeah.
And then, from Willett's perspective, you're probably thinking you're not going to win the Masters, and then all of a sudden you look up in an instant, and you go from being 5-4-3 down to 2 up.
Yeah.
And so that's good circumstances to finish a major championship, I think. He really didn't have any of the stress of being near the lead overnight. Although he was near the lead, but I mean, we can all agree that probably everybody in that field was thinking that it was probably going to be Jordan Spieth.
So when do you think Willett found out he had the lead? Because they have the manual scoring system in those boards, and he was 3 groups ahead of Spieth.
I think there's a board on 16, over by 16.
I think there is too, but I don't think it was updated yet when he teed off.
It's true. He was probably still going through that.
Right.
The debacle there, because that hole took like 20 minutes.
Yes.
But you could say he gave it away, but I think he started giving it away on Friday afternoon when he started his second round. He goes 66 in the first round, no bogeys, great round. and you're thinking, wow, he's going to steamroll this field. But then on the second round, he has 4 bogeys and a double, shoots a 74. Round 3, he has 2 bogeys and 2 doubles, shoots a 73. And then, in the final round, he shoots another 73 with 4 bogeys and a quad. Right. So he wasn't capitalizing on all the birdies he was making, because he did make a fair share of birdies, too. He just, after round 1, he kind of started to give it away right there.
His short game, though, all weekend was spot on. I mean, the chipping and the putting, especially the putting, saved himself, because he could have easily shot a much higher score than what he turned in.
Yeah.
Because he saved himself a few times, even that final round. And the shot in number 3 that lands short of the pin and spins back, and it stops like a foot in a fringe where it could have gone 30 yards back. So he got a bit of luck there. And in the 4th hole, his tee shot wasn't similar to this tee shot on 12. And he's yelling for it not to go out of bounds. And it somehow stays in bounds, and he makes a par.
Yeah.
He turned a 5 or a 6 into a par.
Yeah.
So he was leaking oil, that's for darn sure, early.
Yeah, he was struggling. He was struggling all tournament, from what I was seeing, off the tee, in the woods left, in the woods right. Not really comfortable with his iron shots. A lot of times blaming the wind, being really upset. Stepping back, stepping off. And I think he saved himself because he's the best putter in the world. So if you can hit the ball that poorly when playing against the best ball strikers in the world, but you can still lead if you can putt. I mean, that's a lesson for any amateur golfer.
Driver show, putt for dough.
Big takeaway from that. Absolutely.
Especially, we have limited time to practice.
Right.
So I just think spend your time on the putting green if you want more dramatic results. Right. And because he was amazing. And I was a little disappointed when he couldn't come back, because he had a putt on 16 that I think he would have normally made. But at that point, he had to be, a little bit just kind of in la-la land.
I really thought he was going to come back. When he obviously walked off disappointed on number 12. But he goes right in birdies 13.
Yeah.
14 he parred, right?
Yep.
15 birdie again.
Yep.
So who knows if he makes. He would have had to make 16, 17, and 18, though, right? To tie.
Well,
he got beat by 3, didn't he?
Yeah, I believe so.
But if he birdied 16, if he birdied 16, he would have needed one more birdie to pull even into the playoff. But then he bogeyed 17.
Right.
That's right.
Yep.
And that would have been a great. God, if he could have pulled that out, what a story that would have been.
Yeah, that's what I kind of felt like it was going to happen, because Spieth to me just felt, almost the way Tiger used to feel.
Invincible.
And maybe this is the difference between Tiger and these guys, is that Tiger would have never in his prime
in his interview
given that away.
He made a comment in his interview afterwards, and when he got to the 10th tee, he said to his caddy, even par in the back nine would be good enough. He says, I got very conservative. He said, I should have thought 5 under.
Yeah.
Okay? And your comment about Tiger's spot on, because Tiger wouldn't have said even par would be good enough.
Just keep birdieing.
Beat him by 10.
Yeah. What's the course record?
That's right.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Jack, same way. I mean, all the great ones like that from the past all had that killer instinct.
Right.
And we're going after. Even the one Arnie lost when he was trying to set the record.
Right.
He was going after it. So you can't pump the brakes. You got to keep moving forward. And
so maybe if you got 240 yards over the water on 13 and 15, maybe you play conservative.
Sure.
But other than that,
but you're still playing for birdies at the least there, because you're laying up and you're gonna try and hit it close and get your birdie.
Yeah.
But when you get 4 straight birdies and then all of a sudden you talk about let's make even par.
Right.
Let's just keep making birdies.
Right.
But you said, Jim, he was under 60% in the fairway.
Yeah, so, less than 60% of the fairways and less than 68% of greens.
Yeah. And
that's okay numbers if you're playing on Saturday morning with your buddies. Yeah. That's great, but when you're in the Masters, that's generally not a recipe for even making the cut.
No.
But props to Danny Willett, second Englishman to win the Masters, taking the title 20 years after Nick Faldo won his third and final green jacket. So, I mean, this is huge news over there in England. Huge news. And we mentioned off the top, first European to win since 1999, which is hard to even believe.
Yeah, since Fowler, right?
A lava ball.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay.
In 1999, though, last century.
Right, 20 years ago since English. Yeah.
And Willett, in just his second Masters appearance, finished tied for 38th last year at 1 over par, 19 behind Jordan Spieth last year. And he was 104 in the world golf rankings back on November 8th of 2014, and now he's risen all the way up to number 9. So the question is Danny Willett, and the guy I most think of him as potentially being is Charles Schwartzel, or is he going to be the next, equal to Rory McIlroy?
Somewhere in between, maybe.
Yeah. Obviously a tough question. There's not a lot of background, but everybody. Darren Clark made a comment about he's the best European player right now.
Yeah,
that's a big bold statement.
That sure is.
We've talked about him in our past podcasts, though, and fantasy picks. We've mentioned him. He's kind of
he's been on our radar. Yeah, the guy came in he came in third place in the last 3 World Golf Championships. I think third place.
And he did well. Didn't he have a really good? Did he
U.S. Open or British Open?
I was saying, didn't he at Dubai this past?
He won something. Nedbank.
Yeah, it might have been that one.
He did.
Yeah, he's won 4 times worldwide in the past year.
Right. So he's definitely out there.
Right.
Oh, he definitely is not Trevor Immelman, but I'm not ready to make him Phil or Tiger yet either. Right.
Yeah, but he could be one of those. We've been trying to think, okay, it's McIlroy versus Spieth. Oh, wait, it's McIlroy, Spieth, and Day.
Right.
And then some people want to put Rickie Fowler in there. And now, Danny Willett wins the Masters. Right. And, he could win the U.S. Open. What happens when he wins the U.S. Open? Now he's going to be number 1 in the world. And all of a sudden, I just think the world of golf is at a golden age.
A lot of parity. You're talking about 2 guys mainly, really. I mean, Rory's not even in the top 2 conversation anymore. It's Day and Spieth for right now.
Right.
It could change next week, obviously, but you're talking about 2 guys, and then everybody else is bunched in tightly, and anybody can win on any given day. Fowler, Bubba, Rory, any of those guys, could come out and win. But then
Hideki Matsuyama's 22 years old.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, they're all the same age.
Yep.
And we get to watch them play for the next 30 years.
Right.
I mean, and you've heard it before on TV how they say, well, Arnie was too old when Nicklaus hit his prime, and no, Tiger didn't have a rival.
Right.
Now it's like...
Yeah, they're all out there.
Yeah, and, from all over the world.
Right.
You hope for Willett that he wins some more because, it's really like Willett won the Masters, but nobody's talking about anything but what happened to Jordan Spieth because Jordan Spieth's the American. Everybody was rooting for him to do well. And so you hope he validates it by, a few more wins here and there and makes it everybody feel like, he won the Masters.
I think he will. I mean, he had the...
We should see him a lot. He's now got a 5-year exemption on our tour.
Right.
Okay, he could have joined our tour this year, but he elected to stay home because his wife was pregnant.
Sure.
Okay, but now he's got a 5-year exemption by winning that tournament. So we should see him on the U.S. Tour a whole lot more than we have in the past.
Pretty good week. Birth of his son.
Yeah.
Wins the Masters.
Yeah.
It probably doesn't get much better than that.
I wonder if he had any money on Villanova.
Perfect timing, yeah.
Well, so what does Jordan Spieth do now? I mean, there's so many things that I love about the game of golf. And, I mean, there are so many, and you don't really think about them all until sometimes you see them. And we've never had a Masters champion that was that I can remember that was in contention for a defending Masters champion who was in contention and then lost and had to put the green jacket on the winner. And I thought about it as Spieth was coming up 18. I'm like, my God, he's going to have to go right into Butler Cabin after blowing that 5-stroke lead on the back 9 and put a green jacket on Danny Willett. I mean, it would be like, who did the Broncos play this year in the Super Bowl?
Carolina.
Yeah, Carolina. It'd be like Cam Newton having to go in and hand them the trophy at the end of the game. Exactly. And there's no other sport that does that.
Right.
And if it was that way in the Super Bowl, Cam Newton would be a big baby.
Yes.
But Jordan Spieth,
he did very well.
And it was just moments.
Yes.
It was within an hour of him making that 7.
Yeah.
Not easy to do. But that's their deal. It's part of the deal. You win or lose, you've got to go do that. And some people say maybe Tiger wouldn't have done the interview or something, but you don't know. I mean,
he would have had to give the jacket to the guy.
Yeah, you have to do the interview. I mean, I think Tiger would have done an interview. Would he have been as gracious? Maybe not. But like I said to my friend last night, he's telling me, "Oh, Tiger, this, that." I said, "Don't even bring him up. He has nothing to do with this. This is Jordan Spieth. He was good, but if you show me a guy who's happy-go-lucky after just that happening, then that's a loser. Right. He should have been mad. He should be upset. So, he probably did it much more gracious than some would have, and Tiger included. But I wouldn't blame Tiger for doing that interview in a with a huff and a puff either. You're going to be mad at yourself for blowing that. So
yeah, well, I respect Spieth for having the awareness to respect that Willett won the tournament.
Yeah,
you know, it was impressive all the way around.
He did push the cameras away on his way from the 18th green a little bit. He got a little huffy with the camera guys, but we'll give him a pass on that.
But it
was a rough day.
Reasonably polite, asking him to get out of the face as well. So
yeah,
I think he'll be fine. You know, he's not your average 22-year-old kid. He's going to go home probably and not touch his clubs for a little while.
Yeah,
and then analyze some things. But
he's had quite an aggressive schedule since Hawaii. So I mean,
because he's building towards this, and then he had a 5-stroke lead.
Yeah.
And then he blew it.
We probably don't see him until TPC or maybe one time before.
Yeah, there's one another decent sized tournament I think before that, but probably right. I mean, 3-4 weeks maybe.
And then
I wouldn't.
Which is not that far off in a sense, anyways. But he's got a couple of mechanical things I'm sure he's going to work on. But for him, he just needs to wash his hands of what happened. That's part of being a competitor.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, the good thing is, too, he's not the only one that this has happened to, major championship-wise, and all the greats.
No.
It happened to Nicklaus. It's happened to Palmer.
Right.
You know, it's happened to all. You know, happened to Tiger.
Well, it happened to Rory McIlroy, and then he won the next week, or the next major. And it happened to Adam Scott. 4 bogeys in the last 4 holes of the Open Championship to lose, and then he won the following Masters.
Right. Yeah.
So, no, this isn't going to – if anything, this could help Jordan Spieth. Yeah. But the unfortunate thing is that while I was watching Jordan Spieth front 9 and he birdied those 4 in a row, I'm thinking, you know, he is clearly, you know, the best player. He may be the one that beats Nicklaus's record. I mean, he's 22. He's going to have 2 green jackets and a U.S. Open.
Right.
And he barely, you know, he almost won the British Open.
Yeah.
It's, you know, I was just thinking, and then it just all went away like that.
Sure.
Now he's just back into that Jason Day, Rory McIlroy. He didn't separate himself.
Right.
So he also needs to know he's already got a green jacket. So that's got to help him out on this week with what happened, right?
Yeah.
And he's gone, second, first, and tied for second in his 3 appearances.
Yeah.
Pretty solid, right?
Yeah.
So if he goes back next year, which he will go back next year, he's got to be already confident about playing that golf course.
I think
So he got beat.
Yeah.
Right? It's
the course beat him and Danny Willett beat him.
Right. There's one winner when it's all said and done.
His mindset is very locked in. He's very, very strong mentally. I don't think, you know, short term it'll bother him, but I think by the U.S. Open he'll be dialed in again.
He's got a tough couple of weeks ahead of him of soul searching or whatever, and the press is going to get on him for a little while because they're brutal.
Yeah, they are.
Right? They stick that microphone right in your mouth as soon as you walk off the golf course.
Yeah.
It gets you to be emotional.
Yeah,
right?
and the next time he plays in a tournament and goes in for a post-game interview, somebody's going to say, you know, Jordan, do you feel like you've recovered from that 7 you made on 12?
Right.
Yeah.
Or, you know, after that epic collapse you had in the last major, how you are you worried about the U.S. Open? Or there'll be stupid questions.
Sure.
Oh, yeah. They were talking this morning on Mike and Mike about how soon is too soon for one of his buddies to actually make a joke about it, or, you know. And they took a poll about it, and some people were like, never bring it up, and some people. But Mike Golick was like, one of his best friends should bring it up within the next couple of days just to kind of loosen him up a little bit.
After he wins another major.
Yeah, well, that was one of the questions too, or that was one of the answers. Was after the next major, then you can bring it up. But you know, it's one of those things where it's just going to have to deal with it if he wants to continue to have a great career, which he should. Yeah.
Right.
Well, there was a lot more about this Masters than just Spieth. You wouldn't know it though by the CBS's coverage. We'll talk about that later, but. There was so many great little storylines there, and for a while on Friday it looked like it could be the greatest leaderboard of all time. But it happens a lot at the Masters. I find the Masters several times, more often than not maybe, is a little anticlimactic when you reach that back 9, because that's you're waiting for it, and you see all these. One guy usually separates himself, and but how about Bernhard Langer?
Great story.
I mean, I was thinking that this is great for the Champions Tour, whatever it's called now. They changed the name.
We still haven't figured that out.
Yeah.
We had that issue last week.
Yeah. They should have just kept it the Champions Tour. Or the Senior Tour was fine, I thought.
Stay with it.
You know, if you get the top players on the Champions Tour able to still compete for these major titles, it just raises the awareness and the coverage I think that the Champions Tour will receive. And really, with the way health is nowadays, 50-year-olds are ready to go.
It's the PGA Tour Champions now.
The PGA Tour Champions.
Yep.
It's not called the PGA Tour Champions Tour, though, right?
No, it's the PGA Tour Champions, and that's their name now.
But we saw, Longer do this, and we saw Tom Watson a few years ago.
Yeah. 59 is the new 44.
Right. Freddie Couples
32.
He didn't play this week, but Freddie's had a couple of good events since he turned 50.
Yeah, a couple good
but
runs.
I think the scores have got to be about down in that level where they were this week. Freddie's not going to shoot 18 under par. I don't think Bernhard Longer would.
On a
but
major
if you're hovering
championship
around
course.
5, 6, 7 under par as a winning score, those guys can hang around.
Yeah.
Like he's saying, too, he's hitting hybrids into greens that they're hitting. They're hitting 5 or 6, 7 irons in, and he can't stop the ball.
Right.
And Watson, when he did it at an open course where it was links course, so he could roll everything up the front and get it up on the green.
Right.
So that was a whole different scenario. But yeah, it's much tougher. But man,
it's not going to happen at a U.S. Open probably.
No. But although the Augusta's probably the best place for it to potentially happen.
I think so.
Just
they can get the par 5s,
and they've played
as long as they do that.
They know how it's set up, and
if they chip and putt well.
Right, and he putted great Saturday.
Rander's a machine.
I know it.
Great, and he wasn't making the putt Sunday that he made on Saturday.
But how about the fact that there's all this concern about the long putters being banned, and then you got Adam Scott winning twice and Bernhard Longer in the top 3 heading into the final round of the Masters.
Right. Yeah.
And he just made a subtle change of unanchoring it.
Yes.
Almost looks the same.
He got the same stroke. He moved it like a half inch off his chest.
Yeah.
That's all he did.
Should somebody else? Should we talk about this? The other guy that made the full change, and maybe he should have just taken his hand off of his chest. The guy that got the 9 on number 1.
Oh, poor Ernie Els. Poor Ernie Els.
Yeah,
we can't go through this without talking about it for a second. At least that was terrible for him. You felt bad for him.
Well, you prepare for the Masters, and you have a 2-foot par putt on 1, which is shorter than probably half the field for par on 1.
Yeah, nice shot in there.
And he, walks off with a 9.
Right.
Yeah.
They thought it was a 10.
They miscounted the first time, right?
Well, then the fact that he missed the first tap in, that was, he just got so frustrated and he just knocked the ball. But a couple of those misses were, it's like, even every day golfers, how do you miss that?
Right.
Like, you just look at that; it was so close.
I struggle with that.
You could see You could see him almost lined up wrong, though. You could see that he.
Yeah, but you can't. No matter what you do, you can't make yourself feel like you're lined up at the hole. And all of a sudden, something that's easy, a 2-foot putt, becomes impossible.
Right.
Like it's almost impossible. And I've gone through that a couple times recently.
Yeah.
And the best way that I could get out of it is to either completely change what I'm doing, like set up to the ball completely different, or go to the putting green and just hammer them, Yeah. But obviously, Ernie practices those, and he still went. And the difference is that was the first one he had on the Masters. He can on the putting green all he wants, but you get out there and the eyes of the world are on you, and you feel like you can't make the 2-foot putt all of a sudden.
Kudos to him for fighting back, though. He was one shot off making the cut, and had a.
He wasn't much over par after the first hole overall, right?
Yeah,
because he made a 9, so he was 5 over after the first hole.
If he had parred it, he would have been 2 over at the 36th hole cut,
right?
And he would have made it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he was only 3 or 4 over par the rest of the.
Yeah, I think he ended up plus 7.
In the second round, he missed another short one on 1, but he luckily saved his bogey.
Yeah,
it was. They didn't really show that too much, but I was like, oh my god, he missed another one about like that.
Yeah.
So there's a guy that's got to be scared to walk up to he has a 30-foot putt. It's got to go in, or he's scared.
Right.
Yeah.
Because God forbid you don't want a 2-footer tap in. Right.
That makes everything hard.
Sure.
It makes your short game more challenging because you're trying to get it super close.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, it's not pretty when that happens, and nobody. I don't like to see that at all because it could strike at any moment to anyone.
And there's a guy that's smooth.
Oh yeah. Big Easy.
Mm-hmm.
So hey, Bryson DeChambeau. We're talking about Danny Willett maybe moving up. It might not be long before Bryson DeChambeau is is in the argument for the big 5 or the big 6 or the big 8, whatever it becomes. I mean, as an amateur, he had a shot.
Yeah, and I mean, he was right there until the 18th hole on Friday, and he just had a couple dead pulls, and the nerves might have got to him there. But
yeah, I mean, you can be scientific as you want, but at the Masters for your first time at that age, before you're even a professional, at some point you have to say to yourself, "I'm at the Masters."
Right.
And
holy,
right.
You know what? I'm at the Masters.
Yeah, I think he made a great showing.
Yeah,
and I consider him a good threat to that group of people. Maybe a year from now,
doesn't lack confidence.
No doubt, he's confident.
No.
And I tell you. The thing I love about him more than anything is that I think nowadays the golf's a game that allows you to be creative, different methods for different things. But for the most part, especially now on tour with all the swing coaches and stuff, guys are essentially, carbon copies of each other. Their swings aren't exactly the same, but generally people are approaching the game. This
visualization and all that stuff.
But they're all kind of on the same program.
Right.
So this guy comes in and says, "I'm going to play with clubs that are all cut to the length of a 6-iron," and commits to that level to doing something completely different than anybody. He could have gone to any golf coach probably and said, "This is what I'm going to do," and they would have said, "What, are you crazy?" And it's just one of the great things about he found a different way to play the game, and he can do it at the highest level. It's and unfortunately, it's difficult for us to say, "Oh, I'm going to give that a shot," because all of a sudden now you got to reshaft your whole set to 6-iron length, so you won't find many people dabbling. That's a major commitment. So he's kind of off on his island, and maybe somebody will start selling clubs.
He signed a contract with Cobra. I heard that over the weekend. Cobra and Puma Apparel. Yeah. So I don't know what clubs he's going to have in his bag this week, but I would bet you're going to see Cobra come out with some clubs that are going to refer to Bryson DeChambeau.
The DeChambeau is all 6-iron length?
Yeah.
Very upright in his swing, too.
And the clubs are all modified to that, too.
I can't believe you could hit like a pitching wedge or a 9-iron with that length shaft in it. But, I guess the way he's upright and his swing.
He makes the same motion every time, the same posture.
Right.
That's the logic of it.
Makes
and there's
sense.
some logic that makes sense.
Yeah. Now, his driver's longer than this.
Yeah, I think his irons are all 6-iron length. I think the rest of his clubs are all standard length. But I'm thinking that the angles of them are all adjusted to adjust for him, because that club shaft runs right down his arm.
Yeah.
Right.
If you look at the angles. So they got to tweak that, the lie of that club.
Right.
The angle of that. So they got to be, you just can't go make these clubs longer or shorter and make them work.
And it works for him, but he looks very stiff when he doesn't move his legs much.
Right.
And he just it almost like hitting down.
Yeah, there's no moving parts.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's interesting.
Looks
it's
simple.
a simple single plane swing.
Yeah.
I mean, I like to think that I have a swing I go to that's similar to that, and that I'm not hinging things. I'm kind of keeping things locked in, and on one plane, it's like a safety kind of shot. I put the ball back, and yeah, I mean, believe me, I'm watching him, and I'm thinking, geez, I could do this. I might, if I can only get my hand on those clubs and give it a shot.
Well, do you hit your 6-iron any good?
Well,
if it's your favorite club, then you got to go there.
Yes, that's the thing. It's probably not my favorite. I like my short irons a little better, but
you go 7-iron.
But yeah, you could start with a 6-iron. But I'm wondering what it'd be like to hit a pitching wedge or 9-iron, like that's the length of a 6-iron, and readjusting to the game.
He's pretty tall though too, right? I mean,
I believe he's
my size. I don't think I could hit a 6-iron with every club. I'd have to probably go down to a 7 or 8 based on your height. I think, because I think that has something to do with it, doesn't it? I mean, for him to stand over a pitching wedge that's 6-iron length, you got to be a little taller.
Most of the fitting starts with how far your hands are from the ground when you're standing up.
Right.
So you could be very tall with short arms. You got to have long clubs.
True.
You could be short with short arms. You got to have long clubs.
Right.
Okay. So, but you're allowed. You might be half inch different than what he does.
Right. It's kind of like the ping, all the different colored ping dots on the old ping eyes.
Right.
Well, he's just one of the many players that had some storylines going. The English had a great tournament. You had Rory. Well, first of all, you had McIlroy head-to-head with Spieth, as everybody was waiting for this to happen. This was the third round. They're in the final group together. It's just like it's on, and McIlroy just fell apart I think in the face of Spieth, and I think one reason is because McIlroy just changed to the cross-handed putting grip about 4 weeks ago. He can't be totally comfortable with it, and he's playing with a guy who just keeps making 10 and 15-foot par putts over and over, and I think he just mentally knew he couldn't beat him that day, and he struggled. But also, Doug, might have been the slow play of Jordan that. There
was a couple of times it looked like Rory stood around an awful long time waiting for Jordan that I could see on the TV coverage, anyways. And Rory is a faster player, and but Jordan was really, he was really grinding out. He was kind of a mess in a sense, trying to backing off, and it's like Sergio Garcia was years ago.
Well, he was put on the clock
they were on the clock.
2 rounds, right? At least 2 rounds, I think. Not the final round, but I think the first Friday for sure. I know.
And Saturday they were way out of. They were the last group. They were way out of position on Saturday. But you couple all that together, it all piles on, because if Rory's beating Jordan, then the slow play doesn't bother him.
Sure.
I think Rory's biggest problem was his putting, by far. Jordan probably had 26 putts. Rory probably had 36 putts.
Yeah.
There was some big gap there. And there's a total different confidence level. You can see it between those two when they get on the green.
Rory, probably since he was in the mix last year at the U.S. Open, that's about the last time you really saw him really close to the top of the leaderboard, on Sunday with a real good chance.
And here's a guy that
didn't really have a chance.
It wasn't long ago, because he won a tournament last year. He made every putt. He won those 2 majors, or he's won 4 majors overall. He was a putting machine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, now we're going left hand low, and and once you start making those changes, it means something's wrong, or why would you change?
Right.
And like you said, if you're missing those 2-foot putts, change everything. That makes sense. He was making everything.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, so why?
These guys like
just
to tinker.
lost it, maybe. Sometimes you.
Because the bodybuilding part, you lose feel.
Well, that's true
and some
too.
could go back to this. I mean, he was a pudgy 21-year-old drinking Guinness beer,
free
or something.
swinging.
Now he's physically fit.
Now, and he's like really blown up, though. I mean,
he's solid.
He almost looks tight, though.
Yeah.
He doesn't look like he feels comfortable swinging the golf. Swinging the golf club. And maybe that's something to do with it, but we'll never know on that end. He looks like he feels good.
I thought his ball striking was pretty darn good. I bet his stats were better than Jordan's, greens and fairways and all that. But his putting stats were probably middle of the field or worse.
Yeah, and again, that's what it comes down to. Yeah. Especially at Augusta.
I mean, I don't think you could get a tighter shirt on.
Very seldom do you find somebody win a golf tournament that was, say, worse than top 10 in putting or something like that.
Right.
Unless they hit every green. Because the stats kind of lie sometimes, but...
Well, McIlroy didn't even finish in the top 3 English golfers. Lee Westwood, Spotty's been most comfortable with his entire career, 2nd place in a major.
Yep.
Thought for a second there, I was thinking, geez, maybe Lee Westwood. But comes up 2nd. And then Paul Casey with a 67, along with Matthew Fitzpatrick, 67. So 3 Englishmen, Willett, Fitzpatrick, and Casey, shoot 67 on Sunday when nobody else was coming anywhere near that, really. So, geez, I don't know, what's going on in England, but
those are good guys. Those are guys you could have, you would have liked to seen win too. As it was developing, you were thinking, well, maybe one of those guys can put a couple more birdies together and get this to a playoff or win. But it was good to see those guys playing well again. Lee Westwood's a good guy. You'd like to see him doing well. I know he's had some issues lately, so it's good to see him doing well.
Yeah, we had Casey rated pretty high last week.
Yep.
He had one bad round. I think I'm not sure it was Saturday. I think he melted down a little bit Saturday because he was in the hunt. He was under par for most of the time over the Friday and Saturday.
Well, his tied for 4th finish was his best in 10 appearances. He tied for 6th last year and 2 other top 10s in his career. And we haven't even talked about Jason Day. I really thought he was my pick last week. I thought Jason Day was just going to, dominate this tournament. And he really didn't hit the ball well. He didn't putt that bad. He just didn't hit the ball well.
I think
he hit it off the tee, too. It was like the approach shots. He was just not sharp at all.
Right.
So
you saw him in, I think it was Friday. You saw him stretching, like after every shot. He's walking down the 2nd fairway. He's laying down, stretching his legs. Yeah, I got to think that maybe that back is a little more damaged than he's leading on. And just didn't look comfortable out there all weekend. And he's a guy that, when he's
I
rolling,
just
he
kept
does.
saying, even going into Sunday, I kept saying, I thought going into Sunday that Jason Day was going to win. I thought he was going to be a guy that came out and shot 65 or 66. But then, you see him on these par fives on the back, not even, have eagle putts. And
Right.
Not even close.
I thought with his front nine on Thursday, the way him and Jordan played, that we could have seen 25 under par.
yeah, boy, were we
The way
wrong.
it was going, and
Yeah.
it would be maybe just 2 or 3 guys running away with this thing. I didn't see the 41 coming on the back.
So, Doug, how about Dustin Johnson?
Well, Dustin's putter became the baggage.
It's
did the same
unbelievable to watch him miss these things.
Because the way it shook down, he could have easily been in that green jacket because he hit some pretty good shots.
With Jordan Spieth, still, if Jordan didn't make that 7 on 12, Dustin Johnson still could have been 1 or 2 up on him at that point if he just made some 6 to 10 foot putts. I mean, I couldn't believe in the third round, especially how many he missed. He kept hitting the ball great and missing the putt every single hole.
Yep.
He 4-putted on the 7th hole, I think it was, Sunday. A horrible first putt. And then 3-putted from basically the same spot he started out in.
Yeah.
And then the back 9, he hit some darn good shots in the back
Eagle
9. Got
putts.
nothing.
He had eagle
Eagle
putts.
He was missing
Easily.
He doubled 17.
Yep.
From not very far.
Right.
That was a couple bad putts he
Right.
had on 17, but that was really the difference there. He pars there or birdies there. He's at 4. He's got a shot going down 18 to maybe tie him.
He's got to win one soon.
Yeah, so why can't he
Maybe
pull the
not.
shot off rather than the opposite of that, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe he just doesn't have it mentally for the big putts. I mean, he can definitely hit every shot.
So the other thing you don't know, on the back 9, maybe he figured he was out. No chance. Look at the leaderboard. Jordan's got a 5-shot lead going to the back 9.
Yeah.
He looks at it again. He's still got a 4-shot lead, whatever. Or I'm behind by 4. Just going to finish this off. We're going. All of a sudden, look at the scoreboard. You're down by 2 to somebody else.
Yeah, but after 12, they were tied, the 2 of them.
To somebody else, yeah.
You know what I mean? Dustin Johnson and Jordan Spieth were at the same score after 12 holes.
Yeah, but Dustin was way ahead of him in groups wise. So
that's
if you looked at the scoreboard, he was still down, right?
Yeah.
Because there were, 3-4 groups different.
Oh, right.
So-
right. Yep. I got what you're saying.
But I just wonder what all of a sudden now I got to get going, and I just couldn't make the putt.
Right.
Yeah,
But he could have easily eagled 13, eagled 18, or
Yeah, I
15.
watched him the first 3 rounds, and he was missing. I mean, he could have. He probably hit the ball better than anybody in the field.
That shot on 15 on Sunday was amazing.
Oh. Couldn't tell if it went through the tree or over the tree. But,
Right. Well, Faldo was like, I don't know how he hit that. I don't know.
And
if
I thought it was
able to pull
right. He
that
had to
off.
go for it. At that point in time, he needed to go for that in 2.
Yeah.
Laying up was not a good choice.
No, it makes eagle there, then you hold a whole different ball game.
And last week when we talked, I told you Dustin was the best putter at Houston last week. He had the best putting average, or total putts for the weekend,
Really?
or week at Houston.
Jeez.
Didn't translate.
Yes. No.
Must have liked the greens, I guess, there.
Well,
So-
there is a difference.
Well, I got a little Golf J trivia for everybody here. Tweet your answer to @thegolfj. First person to tweet us the answer on the live show wins a Golf J hat, not unlike the one I'm wearing now. In 1959, Arnold Palmer had a similar collapse at number 12 that cost him a green jacket when he carded a triple bogey 6 on 12. Who ended up benefiting by winning the 1959 Masters? And we'll give you the answer at the end of the show. And as a side note, Palmer hit a 6-iron on 12 that day, and Spieth hit a 9-iron yesterday. So think about playing 12 with a 6-iron. I mean, that had to be like...
How do you hold that green?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's the game's changed so much.
Technology is a little different.
So we'll have that answer for you at the end of the show. And moving on quickly to another segment here. It's our quick hit golf tip of the week. And as I'm watching the Masters, they don't let you start the coverage until 2 o'clock. So I'm watching Golf Channel, and they're showing pretty much Jordan Spieth and Rory McIlroy's and Dustin Johnson's entire warm-up routine. And as amateurs, I mean, how many times do I go straight from the car to the tee, or even just, I'm going to try to commit to every time I play that I can to go through not what they do. They probably hit a total of 80, 90 balls,
Yeah, they're over
in
an
chips
hour
and putts.
dealing with
Yeah, but I want to. I think what you should be thinking when you're warming up is I'm going to hit all the clubs I'm going to hit today at least 2 or 3 times, and I want to hit some chips, and I want to hit some putts, and I want to hit some flop shots. And you don't want to get out there on the golf course and have a shot that you didn't try and practice. So I think you can condense all that into about 20 minutes, maybe 25, and that's the quick hit is to this season allow yourself a full warm up. We can all get behind that, right, guys?
Absolutely.
I like the idea. Putting it actually into emotion might be a little problematic. Right. Usually end up getting there about we tee off 4:15. I'm there about 4:13.
Right.
Well, I think you want to develop a routine that works for you, that allows you to run the gamut of all the shots you're going as quickly as you can, and then kind of try to stick to that. And I found too, sometimes when I have plenty of time to warm up, I might spend too much time, on the range. I might start hitting the ball pretty good on the range, and by the time I leave it, I've screwed it up, because I've hit because instead of hitting just 2 or 3 5-irons, I've hit 15.
But you're out there to warm up, right?
Right. Not to work on your game.
That's right. Get the muscles loose and get your mind going.
That's important.
So Tom Watson warms up with a 3-iron starting out.
Really?
He doesn't. The other guys all take wedges and go slow.
Right out.
Tom Watson takes a 3-iron and just takes a big slow swing. And the reason is, if he hits a lousy 3-iron, he doesn't care.
You're not going to hit it all day, probably.
He doesn't expect to hit a great 3-iron all day long, right? So it's just to get his whole motion going, and he takes a full swing with a 3.
That's interesting.
Yeah, totally the opposite.
He's done all right in his career.
Done okay.
So you might want to think about it. A lot of these guys, we probably should all take a little more tips from these guys, since how they've all done pretty well.
Well, you don't want to walk off the range so you're hitting it good and stumble, or vice versa.
Right.
Hit some 3s.
I mean, I know I can speak from experience that I've hit plenty of Jordan Spieth second shots like that on 12. Yeah. I mean, I haven't played at Augusta, but I've hit that shot. I laid that sod over real nice. So maybe I should take some tips from those guys and warm up a little more.
Well, earlier in the show, I told you I was going to tell you who I thought the most overrated player on tour is, and I think it's got to be. Well, actually, let me approach it this way. Although it's right there on the screen for y'all to see, it's Rickie Fowler. But I have stats here for 3 golfers.
I've got proof.
You have one golfer's 34 years old, turned pro in 2015, played in 268 events, 4 wins, 54 top 10s. Another golfer, 26 years old, turned pro in 2011, 108 events, 4 wins, 20 top 10s. Another golfer, 28 years old, turned pro in 2009, 162 events, 3 wins, 45 top 10s. And that golfer is Rickie Fowler. So the second golfer I mentioned is Patrick Reed. And the first golfer, the 35-year-old who turned pro in 2005 and has 4 wins and 54 top 10s, is Ryan Moore. And, Rickie Fowler is Ryan Moore. He's not Jordan Spieth. At best, he's Patrick Reed. And Patrick Reed may have thought he was one of the big 3, but nobody else is ready to proclaim him that yet. So everybody's pushing for Rickie to be one of the best players in the world. He's not. And he's so much older than these guys, too. He's stylish. He's a trendsetter, but he's not a major champ. And he may never win a major champ. He missed the cut. That's what got me thinking about this. Everybody's picking Fowler. Yeah. He missed the cut.
Missed it in a big way.
Yeah.
Well, you can't play good golf in pants like that.
No, wow. Maybe that's a problem.
That's just not right.
Well,
he looks like a member of Devo.
Yeah.
We say every now and then about Michelle Wee and her style over substance. Rickie might have the same thing going with overall, just more focused on the style and being popular, being the social media darling and all that. But I like to call it more overhyped than overrated. He's definitely been hyped up and lifted up here. But
these guys on the Golf Channel always talk about the big 3, the big 5, and his name comes up in the big 5.
That's why I don't get it.
Bubba Watson.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's not a big 3, not Bubba, but they throw those names in.
He's got 2 green jackets.
Yeah,
though.
he
does.
You can't put him in overrated anymore because he's got 2 green jackets.
Yeah, but they throw Rickie's name in there early.
Yeah. Right.
But he hasn't backed up the TPC win.
And that's his one win.
Right.
And granted that is like a major. It's probably as difficult to win as a major.
Win.
And he had to go to 3 extra holes or whatever it was to win it. But
so fortunately, that was less than a year ago at this point in time. As time goes on, it gets worse if you don't back it up.
Yep.
Right.
You become a one-win wonder.
So
where's Sergio in this discussion? Although he's older.
Well, that's the thing too. Like Sergio Kuchar.
I think Fowler is Sergio
Of this generation.
Yeah, I think that he's the guy that everybody just assumed was going to be this great major champion and just never produced. And hey, like Sergio, Rickie Fowler is a top 15 player in the world rankings.
Right.
So I'm not saying that
that's why I say
he doesn't belong on tour.
Right.
But he's overrated or overhyped, but I think he's overrated because people want to say that he's the 4th best player in the world, and he's not. He's not better than, in my opinion, Dustin Johnson or Patrick Reed, or probably a host of others, especially all these guys from England now, and these Hideki Matsuyama. He's got more of a claim, I think, to be in a big 5 than Rickie does.
Yeah, I mean, you look at look at some of the names you could name run out. Snedeker, Johnson, Kuchar. Those guys are all in the conversation too, but they don't get talked about like these other guys.
Yeah, Snedeker's got a green jacket.
Yeah.
Kuchar, I don't think so.
Snedeker doesn't have a
Johnson
green jacket.
has a green jacket.
Snedeker, no major title. Snedeker won the Masters.
No. He came in. Didn't he come in second that one year?
Well, he had the league going the final round.
That's what
kind of caved in.
But what I'm saying is, like, there's a whole host of guys. Like the media now wants to talk about Jordan, Jason, Rickie, Bubba.
Right.
The guys that are in their 30s and even the late 30s, early 40s, nobody wants to talk about them anymore. But they're all really good players still. Right. It's like you can't just focus on these guys now. They're the it guys now in social media, and they're young and they're up with all that stuff, so a lot more people follow them, and maybe they're good for the young generation for golf and growing the game still. But you can't ever leave out Zach Johnson. Matt Kuchar makes pretty much every cut throughout the whole year. You got Kisner,
so all those guys compared to Rickie Fowler are not flamboyant.
Right.
Rickie wears the colors. He's marketable. Mm-hmm. The kids are in the grandstands with the orange hat and the orange pants and all that. Yep. And I think that's part of the difference. He's getting so much attention compared to like a Zach Johnson. Great guy, but kind of
goes through the motions.
Wallflower type guy.
Older family guy. Just
Kuchar, same thing.
Yeah, those guys are.
The difference everybody's got to understand is that Zach Johnson won the Masters. Zach Johnson won the Open.
Right.
Rickie Fowler doesn't win anything.
That's why I wish they would talk more about those guys. And if you want to talk about a guy who I think is overrated all time, one of the all-time most overrated guys, not so much talked about anymore, but is Ian Poulter. I mean, aside from the Ryder Cup,
major disappointment.
Talk about flamboyant and all that, and he's done absolutely nothing.
And that's why he stands out same way as Rickie.
Right.
He's got the crazy hair and
you know him from 400 yards away.
Yep, big Twitter guy.
Style over substance.
So, all right, fellas, let's we'll see how Rickie does at the U.S. Open here in a couple months, or see if he can defend at TPC maybe. But right now, the tour is heading to the Heritage, South Carolina, Hilton Head, and
tartan jacket.
We're looking for winners, value plays, and sleepers. And Rhett, I'm going to let you lead us off here.
All right. Well, I'm gonna roll with Sneds. I like Brandt Snedeker this week. I think he did
the 20-1.
Yeah, I like the odds at 20-1 there. He's one of my favorites, and is always reliable in fantasy golf. If you're looking for somebody to pick up.
He played decent.
Yep.
This week.
Yep, and he's familiar with that course. He won it in 2011, so I like the way he's playing, and I like his ability to roll from the Masters right into Harbortown and take care of business.
How about your value pick?
Value pick, it's one of those things where I'd like to say Ian Poulter, but no, I'm probably not going to go with him. Jason Duffner, but I'd probably go with I'm going to go with Danny Lee. Him or Russell.
50-1. I was surprised.
Yeah,
that 50-1 for Danny Lee.
He faltered a little bit on the weekend too.
It's not that strong of a field.
But I like Danny Lee and the what he's been able to accomplish. But then you also say I don't want to pick him just yet. It's his first week, but at 50-1, Bryson DeChambeau is not a bad play. Maybe.
See, I would think in his first pro event that DeChambeau would be more like 80-1, but he's at 50-1. So who's your sleeper?
So my sleeper, I think I'm going to go back to a guy, Patton Kazire, who had a couple good showings in the fall. And I had a couple more good showings this spring, so I'm gonna go with Pat Kazire. He's at 80 to 1.
Yeah, I think that's a good value pick there too. I think if you play that tournament 8 times, Pat Kazire gets a couple wins. So
yeah. I'm not going with Thong Chai Jaidi at 150 to 1. I'm gonna stay away from him.
Who do you got, Doug, this week winning?
I'm gonna pick Paul Casey to win.
Hey, well, yeah, he's playing
Continuing
great.
His final round
At 15 to 1 odds here, according to Vegas.
He's been playing well pretty much all season long. What do you call the middle pick?
Value.
My value pick. I don't know how to say this guy's name. Ches Revy.
Yeah, that's a good pick. He's been people don't talk about him, but he's there every week, like top 10.
He's on the leaderboard a lot.
He makes lots of cuts.
So Ches Revy. In my outlier, my high pick at 81, I'm going to go with Kevin Chappell. Or Chappell. I'm not sure how they say that.
Chappell.
We're going to go with Chappell. All right.
Dave Chappelle, Kevin Chappell.
Almost won Bay Hill.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. And he's actually played very well as well. I'm going to say Kevin Chappell is going to be a rising star. Next couple of years, we're going to talk more about Kevin. We're going to find out how to say his last name because he's going to be much better player than he is right now.
Well,
I heard it here first.
Kevin Chappelle. I think it's Chappelle, like Dave Chappelle,
I think
right?
It's Chappell.
Chappell?
Yeah.
Kevin Chappell. Okay, well.
It is now Chappell, then we'll go with that.
I got to go for the win with. Geez, where I didn't mark my page here. Where's my winner? Oh, I'm going with Billy Horschel at 40 to 1 to win.
Is that with the flower pants?
He had a good final round yesterday, and it's a weaker field. At 40 to 1, I think, again, you play this tournament 40 times, I think Horschel wins 3 or 4. And you got Jason Day at 6 to 1 as a favorite. I don't know how you could have too much confidence in Jason Day, especially a little hangover, from the you step on the first tee at Hilton Head, you're Jason Day. How big does that feel?
Yeah.
How into it are you?
It's not a Banger's golf course either.
No, I'm
Right.
surprised
Short,
he's playing
quaint,
it.
tight.
Really am.
So
He looked tired this past weekend. I'm surprised he's playing.
my value pick has got to be Danny Lee at 50 to 1. He played well for most of the Masters, and he turned pro in 2009 too, I believe, like Rickie Fowler. And I think by the end of this year, Danny Lee might end up surpassing Rickie in the world golf rankings, and he's got to be pretty close. Danny Lee worked himself up there into the top 20 at some point last season, right?
Yeah, right. He did.
He didn't have a great FedEx Cup playoffs, if I remember, but Danny Lee's my value pick, and then my sleeper pick is, you know what I found funny? Ernie Els 200 to 1, and again, we just mentioned how he played good. You know what? My sleeper pick at 200 to 1. If you want to throw $10 down for a chance that Ernie Els could win at Harbor Town, you win $2,000.
Well, like we said, after that first hole, he played pretty good the rest of the way.
Well, your first sleeper pick last week made the cut. Larry Mize at 9,000 to 1.
Can you believe that he made the cut? I mean, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
I'm not sure what the odds were of making the cut, but the odds of winning were high, right?
Yeah, they were 9,000 to 1.
Yeah.
Anytime you make the cut at Augusta and you're over 50, that's a pretty good deal.
Pay him.
Now, you notice I did not pick my favorite guy.
Tony Finau at 60 to 1. No confidence.
I'm going to hold off on him this week.
See, I think these odds are a little screwed up. Tony Finau 61 and Ches Reavie at 61. There should be no comparison if you look at how they played over the last 3 months.
True.
So there's some there's some money to be made out there, I guess.
And I would have to give
if you're into that sort of thing.
Like you said, I would have to give him better odds than Bryson at this point. I mean, but Tony's getting no love. That wasn't a full field win, so it doesn't count, right?
Well, you know who else isn't getting love for me this week? It's the CBS Sports team.
Jordan Spieth Network?
Yeah. Well, let me give you some numbers. Sunday's broadcast of the final round of the Masters by CBS, they showed 411 strokes, average 1.33 strokes per minute, 1.33 strokes per minute, which is a pretty big increase from last year, which was 1.18, where Spieth was just running away with it. So they were kind of locked in on him. But CBS televised every single stroke from third round leader Jordan Spieth. So we saw every one of his shots. Dustin Johnson featured second most, 55 shots. CBS covered 41 strokes from the winner, Danny Willett, So he shot. They 26 of the winner's shots in the final round we didn't see, and they first showed Willett on hole 4, and then from 13 on showed every single one of his shots. 9 players got coverage of at least 24 strokes. The highest finisher not shown at all was poor Daniel Berger, who finished 10th and didn't even make the telecast on Sunday, you know. But that's not really what I don't like about CBS. I mean, yeah, they stuck with Spieth way too much. And then when Spieth hits those shots in the water on 12, they never gave you a close-up, you know. So they're following Spieth around while he's stepping off of the shots. He hits it in the drink and chunks one, and you don't get in there tight on him. And, you know, I mean.
They're protecting him.
So, and we never got that close-up. Didn't like that. And, you know, I don't need to see these packages of Nicklaus and stuff. I see them all leading up to the Masters. When the Masters is on, show me golf shots. Yeah. Don't show me panoramic views of Augusta. That's even okay on Thursday and Friday, you know, because you're so amped up. But by Sunday, it's just like, yeah, I know the azaleas and the birds that you pipe into the telecast. And then finally, and some people may disagree with me on this, but they don't utilize any technology in the broadcast. They have an opportunity to really show you those elevation changes nowadays, you know, but they don't make an attempt to do that. It was windy. They never had wind meter, but Sky Sports broadcast back to Europe had the wind meter and had some of this stuff.
Well,
so
how about the shots that you could see with a Pro Tracer on 12 and how high they have to hit that ball to land it on the green, and the paths that allow them to take, because they'll hit cuts, they'll hit fades, they'll hit draws. You know, they never just hit straight at the pin. So that would be awesome to see that at the least on that hole. But they just use no tech whatsoever.
I think the Masters controls that. I don't think they want it.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's. Yeah. You're judging CBS, but I think they did everything they can within the contract they have. You know, everything they put up had the Masters logo on it, and you never saw CBS logo.
Yeah.
They control who the announcers are.
Yeah, they
and
definitely
what they're going to say.
So one thing I noticed though is that remember how it used to be 2 commercials every half hour? It's way more than that now. They cut away to a couple. Now they don't stay long on them, but they go to 2 commercials like every 5 minutes. It seems like now. So they've totally gone away from that 2 commercial thing.
So and we're not even getting into ESPN and the limitations. They don't let you show it till before 3 o'clock, and so I mean, all the other majors you can wake up at 8 in the morning of the final round and watch everybody play, and it's fun to
This is a private tournament.
Yeah, it is. And maybe that's what makes it special.
It's not a PGA Tour event.
Yeah, maybe that's what makes it so special is some of the stuff that I'm complaining about. But run a little short on time here. Wanted to quickly give you our trivia answer. Who won the Green Jacket in 1959 when Arnold Palmer blew it by making a 6 on 12 triple bogey? And it was Art Wall. So mark that one down, Art Wall. And also really enjoyed a tweet from Danny Willett's brother on Twitter where he said his tweet was, "Spieth is lining up his putt. If I'm quick, I can get a beer, go to the toilet, and paint the spare room before he hits it."
He was very entertaining throughout the course of the day. He was live tweeting his brother's round all day.
So, well, fellas, it was a great another great Masters, and Doug, enjoyed talking to you about it before and after.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Enjoyed having you up here. Welcome anytime on the show.
I enjoy it.
And Rhett, I think this officially begins our
we're in the season
for the podcast and on golfj.com. So thanks for spending time with us this week on this special Masters recap edition. Connect with us online at Twitter at the GolfJ, on Instagram at _GolfJ. Search for GolfJ on Facebook. All our episodes in the best of the World Wide Web. All of our episodes in the best of the wide world of golf on the web can be found at golfj.com. We'll be back next Monday to recap the Masters. Until then, hit 'em long, not often.
golfj.com.